In this post-apocalyptic world, there exists such a place where not only livestock are reared and vegetables are grown, but children also receive education. Everywhere there is a sense of tranquility. This community bears the beautiful name of the kingdom. Carol was injured before, and Morgan brought her here for help. Morgan tells Carol that he will take her to meet the king of this place. Carol is surprised that not only is the community called the kingdom, but its leader also refers to himself as the king. When they enter a hall, a loud tiger's roar echoes throughout the room. Carol is startled to find a tiger here, but Morgan remains composed. Sitting on the platform is Ezekiel, the king who founded the kingdom. The tiger is his pet and a symbol of his identity. The kind and gentle Ezekiel gets along well with Morgan. Carol is hesitant to speak and seems afraid of the tiger. Ezekiel wonders why Carol is silent, if she thinks he's crazy, or if she thinks everything here is an illusion. He urges her to share her thoughts. For the first time Carol showed this kind of smile. Haven't seen Carol this happy since the end of the world. Don't know if it's faked or real. And then stammered before saying a few polite words, but the overall expression is shocked. Ezekiel's reaction to Carol is not surprising, as most people are surprised when they first meet him. Nevertheless, he develops a liking for Carol, and they engage in a pleasant conversation. Of course, this is just a small episode, a rare moment of ease in this post-apocalyptic world. By mid-afternoon, Ezekiel had taken a few people out, and Morgan was invited to join in the action. Their destination is a small town enclosed by fences. There are many piglets kept here that feed on zombies, and now it's time to harvest them. They quickly corral the piglets into a room where a zombie is still hanging. Ezekiel appreciates Richard's method, as it was his idea. Morgan is curious about using zombies as food, and Richard explains that they want the pigs' stomachs to be filled with rotten flesh, leaving Morgan even more puzzled. Half an hour later, they loaded all the pigs into the car. A zombie approached. Ezekiel told the kid Benjamin to kill it. He had been practicing how to kill zombies at home, and now was the chance to do it. Benjamin took a deep breath, summoned up the courage to rush forward, and slashed the zombie's shoulder. He was so nervous that he forgot to aim at the head of the zombie, and the knife was still stuck inside the body. In the end, Ezekiel helped to kill the zombie. The king is a good man and doesn't blame him too much, but encourages Benjamin to adjust his mindset. Richard tells Morgan not to tell anyone in the kingdom about what happened here. Morgan didn't ask any questions but just nodded. They then drove back to the community again. In the following days, not much changed. People continued to grow vegetables and fruits, while the youth engaged in various community activities. Morgan's exceptional skills earned him Ezekiel's admiration, leading him to plead with Morgan to take Benjamin as his apprentice. The next day, Morgan was called out again, and this time, they arrived at an open area. They had slaughtered all the pigs they had brought the previous day, but this time, it was done far away from the kingdom. Morgan remained puzzled, not knowing the purpose behind these actions. Soon, 2 cars arrived, carrying a group of people. It turned out that the kingdom, despite its appearance of tranquility, was also under the subjugation of the saviors. However, the residents were unaware of the agreement made, and so, Ezekiel came out each week to provide offerings. This week's tribute was the pigs. They were so pleased to see how much bigger the pigs were this time that the man at the head of the group asked them to help load up the trucks. This made Richard hate his guts. A woman tried to explain the origins of these people to Morgan, but he expressed that he was already familiar with them. During the loading process, Richard stood by, looking coldly at the saviors, which irritated one of them, Jared. Jared taunted Richard, thinking little of the pigs they brought and making insulting remarks. Richard couldn't help but to say a few words back, which made Jared angry. Jared wanted to beat up this kid, but he didn't expect Richard to dodge him and beat him up. The situation escalated, and weapons were drawn by others present. Richard and Jared wrestled. Ezekiel intervened and urged everyone to lower their weapons, instructing Richard to stop. Jared was furious and threw a few punches at Richard, who didn't retaliate to avoid further endangering others. Gavin, another member of the Saviors but seemingly less evil, stops Jared from continuing the fight, claiming that they've been stalling for a long time. Jared stopped there, but gave Richard the middle finger. For Benjamin, this was his first encounter with the cruelty of the world. These guys from the Saviors also drove away from the place. Jared makes a cocky face. After returning to the community, it was already evening. Morgan went to deliver dinner to Carol but found that she was gone. Morgan realized that Carol had been trying to get away from the people, and had left the kingdom on her own. After dark, Carol is ready to leave in the night, but she doesn't expect to hear Ezekiel's voice. Ezekiel knew from Morgan that Carol was leaving, so he waited. Ezekiel was ready to talk to Carol alone. Ezekiel candidly said, "You came here pretending to be gentle and innocent, and you were clever. I believed it too. You infiltrated to gain people's trust, get what you wanted, and leave as if you never came. Those guns you brought in earlier were obviously the saviors." Carol was surprised that they were aware of the saviors. Ezekiel added that everyone underestimated her, but she fought back and won, which led him to invite her to stay. Carol smiled and sat down, calling both the kingdom and Ezekiel a joke. She explained that the outside world was the real cruelty, and she questioned if he believed he could live peacefully just by calling himself a king and being flattered by others. Ezekiel then revealed his past. He used to be a zookeeper, and the tiger wasn't tamed by him. He just saved the tiger's life. And since then, the tiger has followed him and brought him here to build a kingdom. He became a king as people needed a symbol to rally behind. Carol still chose to leave. Ezekiel has a soft spot for Carol, and since she doesn't want to stay, he offers to help Carol find a quieter place. Only Ezekiel and Morgan knew the location, which put everyone's minds at ease. "You can live your life there," Carol agreed. And the next day, Morgan brought her to this new place that would become her home. After leaving her there, Morgan bid farewell. From that day on, Carol resided in this new place. Occasionally, Ezekiel came to check on her. Daryl was confined to a dimly lit room, curled up in a corner, and each day he could only eat a meal made from dog food. If he refused to eat, starvation awaited him. Whenever the door closed, the room filled with blaring DJ music, preventing him from getting any sleep. Just as he thought the music had finally stopped and tried to fall asleep, it started again immediately. The saviors aimed to completely break his spirit. The saviors had a strict internal hierarchy, with Negan being the supreme authority. The rest were divided into 3 categories. The first category included people like Dwight, who directly served Negan. They not only didn't have to work at the base but also had the freedom to indulge in pleasures. The second category consisted of hard-working people without status, earning points to exchange for essential goods. People like Dwight had no need to queue up for anything. They could take whatever they wanted. Those around them didn't dare to say much and could even assault others at will. The third category comprised those who didn't follow orders. They were either sent to secure zombies to the fence or directly turned into zombies themselves. Negan admired Daryl and wanted him to serve him, but Daryl refused to submit, leading to his torment. Today, Dwight threw a set of clothes at Daryl. He took them, feeling uncomfortable being naked. A few minutes later, Dwight comes in with a weapon and prepares to take Daryl outside. Dwight seems to like Daryl's stuff and not only uses his crossbow, but also wears his jacket. The two traversed a long corridor, and Daryl constantly observed the place. This was the Savior's stronghold. Soon, they arrived at the infirmary, where awkwardly, Dwight's wife, Sherry, was also present. Of course, Sherry was now one of Negan's wives. Dwight's transformation into a cold-hearted person was related to this, and they had to pretend to be strangers when they met. Sherry recognized Daryl as the one who helped them and wanted to speak, but Dwight stopped them. Daryl sat down, and the doctor tended to his injuries. In the room, Dwight noticed a pregnancy test, and he looked at Sherry without expression. Dwight kept his vengeance for Negan taking his wife hidden inside, as revealing it would mean death for them. Daryl speculated that this might be the reason for Dwight's change. Sherry still walked up to Daryl and said, "Whatever they say, just do it." She was grateful to him and reminded him that compliance could spare him from further suffering. After the examination, Dwight took Daryl outside and flaunted in front of him, stating that he had learned to use the crossbow. Seeing that Daryl remained defiant, Dwight pressed him against an iron fence, saying that this would be his future if he didn't smarten up. He told Daryl that he could have the same status as him if he compromised and submitted to Negan. In reality, Dwight wasn't inherently evil. In The Saviors, he acted more cold-blooded and heartless to keep Sherry safe. For Daryl, who had helped them, Dwight's words just now had been a kind reminder. If Daryl surrendered to Negan, he would become a person of the first category. Undoubtedly, if he compromised, he wouldn't be Daryl anymore. In this post-apocalyptic world, life was full of helplessness, and Dwight could only close the door. The music resumed, making it impossible for Daryl to rest quietly. Daryl observed the door, his body now recovered, and he searched for an opportunity to escape. In the afternoon, Dwight went out on a mission, and another person, Joey, brought the meal to Daryl. Daryl still took the food and ate it heartily. Joey, also speechless by Daryl's stubbornness, just closed the door heavily. Daryl felt something was off with the sound, different from how Dwight locked the door. Quickly, he looked through the crack in the door and saw no one outside. He gently pushed, and the door opened just as he suspected. An opportunity to escape presented itself, and Daryl seized it, skillfully avoiding people in the hallway. But just then a hand grabbed him from behind. Daryl was ready to fight back, but then he saw it was Sherry. Sherry told Daryl to go back to his cell while he still could. She regretted what they had done, and she shouldn't have returned to this place. Negan was capable of unimaginable things, and escape was impossible. If they caught him, his fate would be terrible. Daryl didn't speak and chose to leave. He refused to kneel down like Dwight and his wife. The bright light outside gave Daryl the impression of an exit. Seeing no one outside and a few motorbikes, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to escape. He rushed out quickly, but unfortunately, the vehicles had no keys. As expected, Daryl was discovered, and several burly men surrounded him. Negan arrived whistling, appearing as though Daryl's escape was under their noses.
Who are you? Negan.
Here, everyone had to claim to be Negan.
Who are you?
Negan.
Negan wanted Daryl to understand that everything and everyone here belonged to him, and escape attempts were futile. Negan admired Daryl and gave him another choice. The first is to become a zombie to guard the wall. The second is to get out of the cell and earn points by working. But of course this is basically the lowest level. The third is to become his direct subordinate and live like a king. Daryl looked at Negan. Negan is a creep and makes such a fuss that the average person would be scared out of their wits. Negan was unpredictable, and no one could guess what he was thinking. Daryl ended up getting beat up by these guys. After the beating, Daryl was once again locked up. Then, a figure appeared outside the door, calling Daryl's name. It was Sherry. She told Daryl that she regretted stealing his motorcycle and shouldn't have returned here. She seemed to only want to talk to familiar people and share her feelings. After a while, the door was opened again, and Dwight came in with food for Daryl. Daryl didn't pick it up. Dwight said, "You got your buddy Glenn killed. I got the girl killed. Don't pretend this never happened." Mentioning Glenn struck a chord in Daryl, who hurled the food at Dwight. Dwight was angry, saying that if Negan didn't admire Daryl, he would have killed him already. Then, Dwight posted a photo on the wall and left. Daryl looked at the photo that Dwight had thrown on the floor. It showed Glenn's head being bashed in. He felt immensely guilty, wishing that it had been him who died. This tough man only showed his vulnerability when no one else was around. The last time Daryl cried was when Beth died. Dwight hadn't left and heard it outside the door. Daryl, it's good for this guy to cry with the guilt he's been holding in for so long. The next day, Dwight took Daryl to Negan's room. Negan appeared polite and smiled, saying, "Look, Dwight's doing just fine." He and his wife started from the bottom by working for points, but Sherry's sister was sick, and, as a stand-up guy, he decided to marry her and take care of her. But unexpectedly, Dwight and his wife stole all the medicine and ran away with my fiancé. We looked around for them, but they ran away. But guess what? Dwight came back on his motorbike with his wife, begging for my forgiveness, pleading with me not to kill Shirley. I went soft. I wanted to just kill Dwight, but I didn't realize that Shirley was willing to be my woman just in exchange for Dwight's life. Negan found the proposal amusing and agreed. He punished Dwight by scarring his face. It's hard on Dwight's heart, too, with his wife becoming this pervert's woman, and him having to pretend to be cold-blooded and work for Negan. He even became one of Negan's best men so he could keep Sherry alive. Negan shared this story to make Daryl decide. All Daryl has to do is say he's Negan like everyone else and he'll be free of the torment he's in. Looking at the look on Negan's face, this was the last limit of his patience. Daryl stayed silent and Dwight was all nervous for Daryl, wishing the guy wasn't so stubborn. Daryl looked up.
Who are you?
Daryl. This is the old...
Face!
In the end, Negan didn't kill Daryl but kept him locked up. Dwight was also angry and scolded Daryl. "Why are you so stubborn?" Daryl spoke up unexpectedly. "I know why you kneeled, why you accepted this bastard. You did it for your wife's sake." Daryl hit a nerve. Dwight had been silently enduring all along. Dwight closed the door silently and went outside, looking at the zombies by the fence. This man is a former friend of Dwight's who escaped yesterday and was captured by him. And today he's a zombie. Dwight regrets coming back of his own accord and wonders if he's doing the right thing or the wrong thing.